No?
No.
No? Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have a cocktail video coming at you. Today, we are going to continue on talking about equal parts cocktails, except these cocktails aren't actually equal parts, but it is actually very closely related to the Negroni because it actually is called the White Negroni. I'm actually going to do this cocktail two ways because I found two different recipes and I thought they were both they both change out an ingredient. The ingredient they change out, we're going to talk a little bit more about in a little bit. But I thought it would be interesting to make both of them and kind of see how they match up with one another. So the Negroni, if you've never had it, it is gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth. These cocktails, both of these versions of this cocktail will have gin. They're going to replace both of the other ingredients. So essentially what it is creating a clear version of the Negroni. I have not tried this cocktail in a long time. I tried it when I sort of was beginning my cocktail journey. I didn't care for it then, but I have significantly expanded my palate, and I think I'm probably a little bit more open to it at this point. The history, I believe this cocktail goes back to about 2002. So it's not a particularly old cocktail. It's a really interesting idea. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether or not it kind of works. But I think that's enough talking about the history and sort of leading up to it. Let's get our ingredients out and kind of start talking about those because that's where I think the more interesting conversation really is. Okay, we're back and we have our ingredients. So essentially, a Negroni is you have your gin, you have your sweet, and you have your bitter. And that is kind of the basis of that cocktail. Your gin obviously being your gin. In this case, we're going to use Beefeater. One of the recipes specifically calls for Beefeater, and then a bunch of the recipes online I found specifically called for Beefeater as well, so that's what we're going to use. So normally your sweet is going to be your sweet vermouth. Here, this is where the two recipes diverge. So Brad Thomas Parsons in Amaro is calling for Dolin Blanc vermouth. I don't actually know that much about Blanc vermouth. I mean, obviously it is a white vermouth, that's pretty obvious, but as far as the difference, it's sort of is different from your dry vermouth and your sweet vermouth, and I'm not sort of qualified to talk about that. I do think we are going to do an in-depth episode on vermouth, and I will educate myself a little bit more, but that is not today. So that is what Brad Thomas Parsons calls for at Death & Co. And again, I don't have exactly the right one. This is Lillet Sévère Très Frais, probably pronouncing that wrong. They actually call for Lillet Blanc, but I think these are going to be close enough that that's a fine substitution. And the most important part of the cocktail, at least in a regular Negroni, is going to be your bitter. In this case, we are going to replace our Campari with Suze. This is a French liqueur. And I don't know a ton about it. I mean, I've had it for a long time. It's not something I use in a lot of cocktails. But I think the real interesting thing is going to be, it's less a shootout between these two versions of the cocktail, and it's more looking to see, okay, how does this replace a Negroni? Does this taste sort of like a Negroni? It would be sort of interesting to do something with a Boulevardier, but you really couldn't do a light Boulevardier. But that's for another day. Let's get started. So we're going to get our two mixing glasses because this is a mixed cocktail. Okay, so we're going to start off with our common ingredient, well, ingredients. So on my left, your right, we are going to do the Death & Co. That is going to call for 1.5 ounces of London Dry Gin, in this case, Beefeater. Brad Thomas Parsons' version is going to call for 2 ounces. Our next common ingredient is going to be our Suze. So both of these are going to call for exactly the same, which is going to be 3/4 ounce of our Suze. That is a very distinctive color. Actually, well, so we've also got something planned coming up in a little while. We're going to do a very big episode on Amaro, or Mari. It's not going to be right now, obviously. It's going to be probably a few months in the offing. I got a co-host coming on to do that one. Suze will definitely be included in that, and I'm going to be interested to see how it fares. Okay, so where do they differ? So Parsons is calling for Lillet Blanc. I can't pronounce French words very well. I apologize. I'm an American. What can I do? So So, Brad Thomas Parsons is calling for 1 ounce of Lillet Blanc. Again, we are using a substitution. This is the Lillet Sévère Très Froid. That's what I got. And our Death & Co version is calling for Dolin Blanc Vermouth. Also, 1 ounce. All right, so we need to go ahead and get some ice in our mixers and mix these things up. All right, we're gonna go ahead and toss some ice into our mixing glasses. All right, so we got our ice in there. Let's give these both a good mix. I am unfortunately not ambidextrous, so I cannot stir two at once, at least in any effective way anyway. Sure. And over here to our Death & Co. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So, we are going to double strain each of these into a rocks glass with a rock in it. Starting off with Brad Thomas Parsons. And when I say Brad Thomas Parsons recipe, I mean he wasn't the one that created it, just this is the recipe that I got from his book. And then Death & Company. Now, unfortunately, the Death & Co. is supposed to get an orange twist. I just realized I don't have any oranges, so I'm just going to take 1 dash of bitters and just kind of toss it right on top. And Parsons is calling for a lemon twist, so we will go ahead and get our lemon on there. And there we have our dueling white Negronis. I'm going to start off with Death & Co. and keep in mind this got a fresh lemon twist and this didn't get a fresh orange twist. So this is kind of not quite punching where it should be, so I'm going to take that into account when I decide which one I like better. So it's interesting. It doesn't taste like a Negroni. So if that's exactly what you're looking for, this doesn't taste like a Negroni. It isn't a bad taste. The Souza is very bitter. It is very kind of musty, I guess is the best way I could put it. Let's try the one from Omaro. This is going to be very tough. So I think that you really, it's not going to make a huge difference between these two. I think the difference in these two cocktails is fairly negligible. It's not even these two cocktails. These two versions of this one cocktail is fairly negligible. I am noticing that lemon twist does make a difference though. So what am I getting? I mean, the Souza is front and center. You know, the Souza is only 3/4 of an ounce of this compared to the rest of the cocktail. But as we know, those bitter ingredients have a tendency to take over. Yeah, it's I'm getting a mustiness. Again, it's not an unpleasant mustiness. If you've had a lot of barrel picks of, for example, Eagle Rare is known to have these kind of musty, kind of swampy barrel picks that are actually quite good. It sounds like a negative tasting note, but they do taste quite good. And this kind of has a similar note to it. So your vermouths are coming through, and these are drier vermouths. These aren't bringing a ton of sweetness, but there's a little bit of sweetness there. That's where the little bit of sweetness, if there is any sweetness in this cocktail, that's where it's coming from. The gin is presenting basically as some kind of around the outside of the palate herbaceousness. So you kind of get like some herbiness to it. It is weaker than it is in the background, but that you're going to get that in the Negroni too. Yeah, so I like Brad Thomas Parsons' Amaro version better, but again, take that with a grain of salt because again, I didn't have an orange to do a fresh orange twist on this cocktail. I think For me personally, I would prefer the lemon twist on most cocktails. I prefer lemon to orange. I think it complements a lot of these beverages a little bit better. So, yeah, I think I like this one better with an asterisk. I honestly don't think that an orange twist would make me like this significantly more. They are both very similar. So when I say that this one is my favorite, it's like this is a 6.2 and this is like a 6.1 or something. They're very, very similar. But I think the real question is, would I have this or would I have a Negroni? And anybody who knows me will know that the answer is I would have a Boulevardier. But given the choice between this and a regular Negroni, I would probably have a regular Negroni. I'm not disappointed in this. I'm going to be honest, I don't love the color that it comes out. It has kind of a... It's not a great color, to be honest. Flavor-wise, though, I think it's there if you're looking for a bitter cocktail. This is going to be a fairly high-proof cocktail. We got all alcohol ingredients in here. So if you're looking for a bitter cocktail, you're not going to be disappointed in this. But again, ultimately, I probably like the regular Negroni a little bit better. But this is a good one, and it's definitely, if you're looking for something, like you want a Negroni but you're sort of sick of them and you want something that's kind of like a Negroni but a little bit different, I think you're not going to be mad at this. You're going to enjoy this. And yeah, that's about all I have to say on it. So yeah, I think you're going to be happy with this. You're not going to be mad if that's what you're looking for. But on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good drink, and have a good day.